All right, great. So we'll get started. We're going to talk today about FileMaker 16 release, and if I were to sum this up, overall as a release, you know, we came out with last year FileMaker 15 shipped almost a year ago. We're on roughly a 12-month release cycle now, and I would characterize FileMaker 15. I think a lot of people, you know, would say it was. Some of the developers said there wasn't a lot of meat there. I tend to disagree. There was a lot there, but a lot of what we spent doing on version 15 was foundational stuff. So building the foundation for some of the features that you'll see in today's release. So this release, and 15 was more towards the citizen developer, and this one is more focused. I would say 80% of this release is focused on the professional developer. So the FileMaker platform, again, you know, our big recipe for success, our secret sauce is the Draco engine. That's our proprietary database engine, and it powers FileMaker Pro. It shares the Draco engine. FileMaker Server is fully integrated in with the Draco engine. Pro Advanced, FileMaker Go, WebDirect, and the cloud. So now we have a full product line all around the Draco engine, and fully taking advantage of all, you know, the combined interface, data layer, and logic layer in one application. And that's what Draco gives us as a competitive advantage as a company and as a product. So when we talk about FileMaker 16, we're going to talk about specifically 5 different areas. And we're going to talk about mobility, development, integration, security, and scalability. So when we are talking about mobility, we're looking at the enhancements in the area of mobility. So first of all, animations and transitions within scripts. So these provide visual transitions to help orient users as they navigate through their solution and their custom apps on FileMaker Go. Such things as when you're switching to a new layout, we have all sorts of new different animations. What I would characterize this as, it makes it look more like a native iOS app that people are accustomed to. So you'll see some really cool animations and things that I've seen some of the people that have developed these and taken off all the menu items around, all the menus around FileMaker Go, and you really can't tell it's FileMaker Go, and it really looks like a native iOS app that was written in something like Swift or Objective-C, one of the high-end programming languages. We also enhanced the signature capture, and so now, if you remember when the signature capture first came out, it was a modal, I guess, modal dialog box that you would click into a container field, and you would get this choice that you would either take a picture or video or paste something in from your camera, from your device. And signature capture was one of the things that you could choose. But again, a lot of people didn't like that because, you know, just it left too many choices open to the end user. So then in FileMaker 15, we scripted that so that you could actually script it and actually take it directly when you clicked into a signature field. You could have it actually a script trigger that actually took you directly into the signature capture mode, which was better. But still, when you're looking at, you know, forms and the way people actually sign things on a computer, it didn't come full circle. So now with 16, in addition to it, you can put a full screen signature capture like you did before. You can also display the signature capture screen as an overlay or actually embedded in a layout. So it's much more standard and integrated as you would expect. So a lot more different ways of doing signature capture so that it feels more like a electronic signature capture app. Region monitoring script step. This is using a script step. You can automatically perform an action when an iOS device detects nearby predefined beacon or geofence. And again, when we first in 15, when we first came out with support for beacons, it was you had to have a continuously running script in the background that was searching for beacons that were sending out a particular signal, and then it could take an action upon it if through one of those loops it found one. But now you can set it up as a script that it automatically finds them when they're there. And so this opens up some great possibilities. And you used to have to set up geofencing to do that. It's just kind of a hack. And so now I've got one customer that has a great use case for this, and they put beacons for like security guards that are walking around and doing their nightly rounds, and they have to check in they get paid to check certain areas of the plant or certain areas of the company, so they can put a beacon at each specific area, and without the security guard even doing anything, they walk by that beacon and it says that they're there, and it records the time and date and everything that the person was there, and so they can you can do a lot more really, really cool things like that. So things like delivery trucks coming in, and beacons can, when they come in, the beacon can detect that they're there to tell them when when the shipment arrives and things like that. So that was a great improvement. We've added custom paper sizes now, so you can add user-defined paper sizes and reorder the existing paper sizes in FileMaker Go. That's brand new. In area of development, we came out with a new layout objects window. I've talked to a lot of developers. This is, Joe's over here nodding. This is killer. I mean, this is going to save hundreds of hours in development time. So, as you know, people have always done these what we call pet tricks with FileMaker to get certain things to happen, and some of those could include stacking 15, 20, 30 things on top of each other, grouping them, moving them around. Anytime you wanted to go in and change a font on one of the layers, you'd have to ungroup it, you'd have to move everything aside, make that adjustment, and then group everything back and hope you put everything back exactly the way it was. Now you can name the layout objects, and you can actually tile through the different layout objects. You can hide certain layout objects and only view certain ones. You can reorder them in the dialog box right there. You can bring things forward and backwards in there as well. It's really, really cool. So you don't have to ungroup anything to do that either. You just simply, each layout object is listed in that objects window, and you can then edit it and work on it. So you can select and hide and name objects, change the stacking order. We added cards, which is the ability to create a window that allows users to open other windows or files without first having to close the card. So these are cards that I know a lot of people were using popovers and things like that, and other things. Now, I think, Joe, you said you used a card to get rid of, was it a card you used to get rid of a couple other popovers?
Yes, we got rid of some popovers with that, but we're also, it lightens up the graph too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, I'll talk about that when I do a couple of things with them.
Cool. Yeah, so cards are really good, and that's another thing that's, that's very, very, very iOS specific that that people expect when they're using an iOS application. Huge. This is huge. PDF support in FileMaker WebDirect and FileMaker Server. So now, from FileMaker WebDirect, you can now print a PDF, and you can save as PDF and do all that. So now you can print invoices, labels, badges, and more directly out of WebDirect. You can run automated reports and save other information as PDFs, and that's using scripts performed on FileMaker Server. that's big. A lot of people, that's been something that's been a stumbling block for using WebDirect in a major way, and we've now tackled that. For the Windows users out there, this next one is huge. I spoke to somebody yesterday who was just singing the praises. The Windows user interface update now supports the single document interface on Windows platform instead of the multiple document interface. Is anybody here familiar with Windows? And
yeah, I'm telling a lot of my clients use Windows, so I have to deal with that.
have you seen it under 16?
I haven't tried it on 16.
So you get rid of the whole application window.
Yeah.
You can stack windows. You can, just like on a Mac. Just like looks like a Mac now. Yeah. So you're not constrained to that.
Yeah.
You can have multiple monitors, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah.
That's a good size, all your windows when you open a window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were held back. A lot of it was Windows just wouldn't let us do some of the stuff. And finally we talked to them enough that they were agreed to change the way they handle Windows, and we were able to implement that in 16. So copy and paste value lists. So now you can copy for value list, copy and paste in the manage value list dialog box in Pro, so you can copy a value list from one file to another, which saves a lot of time. Not just the value list in it, but the whole thing. So you just go to the top level and copy it and paste it over. Variables in FileMaker data source references. This is huge too. I've talked to a lot of developers that said you can dynamically open FileMaker hosted files by specifying a variable when choosing a file path, as well as other, insert from script steps, such as insert from URL, insert calculated result, date, time, user, name, file, text, and things like that. So variables in opening data source reference. Enhanced data viewer. Now we support autocomplete for function names, and we've improved the edit expression dialog box, and you can automatically evaluate results for functions and resize the edit expression window so you can easily view all the results instead of having to scroll up and down in the window. You can now resize and have all that. And FileMaker Pro now supports copy and paste for both table and fields. That was previously only supported in FileMaker Pro Advanced, but now that functionality is supported in Pro as well. And at DevCon, there's going to be several sessions that are going to touch on these new layout features. And you can get there's going to be an under the hood session, which you can get a closer look at some of the layout objects window and cards. And that session is done by Andrew Paulson from FileMaker, and that's going to be an under the hood session that you can see all that stuff. So integration, this is huge too. I see Joe over here nodding. So JSON functions and enhanced curl options. So JSON provides a set of predefined functions to parse and generate JSON data, which then can be exchanged with other data sources such as web services that have REST APIs. So we have full RESTful API support in FileMaker. Big stuff. Or talking to all these web services. So I've been told that some of this stuff, the FileMaker data API and things, possibly could do away with some of the plugins for QuickBooks. You might be able to, especially QuickBooks Online, you should be able to speak directly to QuickBooks Online through a JSON or curl option as opposed to going through a plugin. Now, I'm not sure. I did this presentation last week, and one of the developers thought you might be able to use JSON and curl to the desktop QuickBooks as well, but they weren't sure.
Possible. If it supports JSON, you can hit the source. You can.
Yeah.
Brian's got a demo he'll show where he is using JSON to Twilio. So you can set up the confirmation for an appointment. So somebody goes online, schedules an appointment.
Oh, yeah.
You FileMaker database and sends them a text message, and they get the confirmation. And if they click reply to it, then it can go back and log it back to FileMaker.
Yeah. I saw somebody connect MailChimp to FileMaker in about 10 minutes.
We've already done Emma, which is significant, which is like MailChimp on steroids.
Oh, okay.
So it's a much bigger platform than that, and we've done some with MailChimp, but Brian and James have got a whole slew of JSON things they've done, which is,
Oh, cool.
we'll go focus on some of those today.
All right, cool. Enhanced curl options, and this provides curl options to configure HTTP and HTTPS calls that work with RESTful APIs. FileMaker Data API is a server-based REST API that allows data interchange with other apps and services via REST APIs, i.e. JSON. And this is going to be allow web applications to consume FileMaker server data. And this is going to be a trial initially, so it's going to be about a 18-month trial, which will expire September 27th, 2018. So that's something that we're testing, and we're going to see how it works and see what the adoption rate is and like that, and then probably bring it fully into the product after that.
It's a fully functional
trial, yeah. Yes. So Tableau Web Data Connector, this is something that was built with the FileMaker Data API, and it just happens to point it at Tableau. And anybody that's familiar with Tableau, it's the data visualization tool, much like SAS has a big data mining tool for data visualization. I saw a demo where you actually take FileMaker server, you have a server application with FileMaker running on it, and it has customer data by city, and you drag in Tableau, you drag a few fields that you want to appear on it out of FileMaker, and it populated a map of the United States that had different sized dots based on the volume of sales by that city. It's very cool, and it was just 2 or 3 drag and drops, and it was done. So I would expect you could, do other things for other data visualization tools. A lot of these companies, they've got these data visualization tools, but they don't have a good user interface for the users to use. So I was talking to a guy at SAS who was talking about how that's something that he's really looking forward to FileMaker, to seeing how that works, so they can get SAS into the hands of people that aren't high-level IT folks. So at DevCon, Todd Geis is going to be presenting FileMaker Connecting to the Web on training. It's going to be on training day, the first day of the session. The conference innovation track is focused on web integration, and there's going to be sessions on like how to interpret an API, and let's curl up together. And there's going to be an under the session hood on the FileMaker Data API with James Q at DevCon as well. So external script steps. We're going to be expanding the FileMaker plugin SDK to support the creation of external script steps, which will also support FileMaker plugins in apps created with the FileMaker iOS app SDK. So the FileMaker iOS app SDK, those of you who aren't familiar with that, is a way to bind the FileMaker Go engine to an application, so that you don't. So typically, right now, in a typical FileMaker Go solution, you go to FileMaker, you open FileMaker Go, and then you navigate to your file, whether it's native on the device or whether it's on a server, and it's a 2-step process. You can't really do MDM. It's not supported in an MDM model. It's not supported on the App Store or things like that. So the FileMaker SDK allows you to bind those two together. So it's a single-step process, which allows us then to be, theoretically, you could put a FileMaker Go application on the App Store, on the Apple App Store, and sell it. And you can also deploy your FileMaker Go app via MDM, because it's just a single unified solution, not a 2-step process. So now you can do all that. And now we're going to be supporting plugins for FileMaker Go through this SDK plugin support. And we're extending the Mac and Windows script workspace to display, add, edit, and remove external script steps from FileMaker scripts. These external script steps will work with FileMaker clients that support plugins, including the server-side script engine. And we're adding a plugin, and plugin developers will now be able to develop iOS plugins, i.e. external script steps, which can then be built into their custom app using the iOS app SDK, like I said before. So now you'll be able to build in plugins to your iOS app, FileMaker Go app. And plugin developers are going to be able to build their own UI for their custom scripts using the FileMaker XML description syntax. And there's an example of it right up here in the screenshot. So you'll be able to actually build your own script steps rather than have that dialog box that gives you 2 or 3 options. Now you can build whatever interface you want to have. And at DevCon, there's going to be a session on augmenting the FileMaker Go SDK to take advantage of the external script step plugins. And that's going to be conducted by Mike Beergy. So security, we've added now OAuth 2.0 support for accounts. And for those of you not familiar, OAuth 2 supports that provides a secure way to authenticate FileMaker users via third-party identity provider for simplified credential management. So before we had Active Directory, Open Directory, things like that, and that you could log in single sign-on. You could log into those credentials, and they would pass on through the FileMaker using the correct groups and privilege sets. But now OAuth 2 support allows you to log in, pass your credentials for, like, say, Google, QuickBooks, possibly, Azure, some of these other web services you can now use OAuth 2.0 to sign in through that.
I'll be able to show that, actually.
Mm-hmm. And
I'll be able to show that.
And Joe's gonna be able to show that. Clickable security icons. Oh yeah. So let me go here. So Amazon is another one. So Amazon, Google, Microsoft Azure account credentials to log into your FileMaker-based custom apps. And there's going to be a session on this, on all the external authentication options with a focus on OAuth from Wim to Court at DevCon. So here's an example of you've got your account name, your password, and you get the option to sign in with your Amazon credentials. This is big, huge within the federal government. This is some of the HIPAA and some of those things. This is big for us in that area. Clickable security icons. So you'll be able to get more details about the security of your network connection in FileMaker Pro. You'll find information about SSL certificates, related details, and certificate validity. So just more information to tell you whether your data is encrypted or not, and so it's right there in the security dialog box. Scalability. For those of you who have been testing the waters with WebDirect, the first iteration of WebDirect, I believe, was a beta as well. It was a trial, and it supported 5 or 10 users if you developed really, really, really well. Then version 15 came out, and I think we scaled it up to 25, maybe 50 users. Again, you had to really, really, really develop well and do a lot of things and rebuild your solution around around knowing that it was going to be hit by a web browser. With FileMaker 16, WebDirect scalability goes up to 500 users, and good performance on that too. So the way that works is so let's just take a 500 user configuration. That's going to take 6 hardware servers or virtual servers. And so you'll have one server that is your database engine server. That's where the database engine exists. That's where your users will point to that URL. They don't worry about the other 5. There's gonna be 5 worker machines connected to that, but the users don't have to even know that those 5 worker machines exist. They point their web browser to that database engine URL, and we've written an algorithm that then parses out those requests to the available worker machines. And it goes through and first of all, it round robins and goes to the first one, then 1 through 5. Then it comes back, and it doesn't just necessarily go back to 1 and keep going through. It looks to the next available one that may or may not have anybody on it, and it will scale. So it's true load balancing, true scalability, and you can get up to 500 connected users. Now, this is not supported on FileMaker Cloud at this time. It is supported in the cloud, just not FileMaker Cloud. So it's supported on Azure, FileMaker hosting providers, but not FileMaker Cloud itself. That's while we're here, we'll talk about that. The FileMaker server, cloud server, which runs on Linux, will remain on version 15 until this fall, and will not support this until possibly in September. All right, so we've gone over the new version, the new list of items: mobility, development, integration, security, and I forgot. Field level text encryption. That's another big one for security.
Yeah.
But before, when we first came out with the encryption, it was encryption across the wire. And that was only encrypted when things were being passed between server and client. Then we added server or encryption at rest in version 15, which means that on both ends you could have the database on your device encrypted. And now, but that was at a file level. Right. And now we've added field level text encryption for things like social security numbers, credit card information, things like that. HIPAA
show us how that works. I tried to make that work on couldn't make it.
You still have to store the hash, so that's the catch to this right now. So it's still, well, you can encrypt the field to the level of encryption that you need. You still need to store the hash somehow associated with that record, so you can bring that back or base it off of something else. That's the real. Yeah. I think that's the important part of it. That it can be done. It can be done with an external table, or an external database, something like that. It's about to have access to that.
Yeah. So this is this is cool for people doing like POS systems and things like that.
Yeah, that's true. Like that.
Yeah.
So the operating system requirements for Pro and Pro Advanced. You'll have to be on Mac OS Sierra 10.1.2 or later, OS 10 El Capitan 10.11 64-bit only. Windows 10 Standard, Pro, and Enterprise, Windows 8.1 Standard and Pro, Windows 7 Service Pack 1 Professional and Ultimate editions. We are optimized though for Windows 10. So it runs on the 8.1 and 7 now. It's optimized for Windows 10. Mm-hmm. Pro and Enterprise. And one other thing, FileMaker 13 or FileMaker 13 will end of life in September of this year. And end of support and end of life. So that's something to keep in. So moving forward, as of September, I think 27th, we'll support 14, 15, and 16. So a couple things I'll show you up here on web. So mobility, you'll see some of the transitions that we're giving you. Go back through it again, so you'll see. Signature. So now you see it brings up a signature capture dialog, and then it goes back to a smaller window like that. Geofence, again, these are active, going out instead of just passive. And layout objects window, again, you'll be able to see all of the so now you'll have you'll be able to see all your different layers of, within there, and hide and show. You can see over here. You can hide those and show them as you want, and then just hide everything and work on one. You can hide up, work on the text.
You're in a layout, and you'll see the list of the objects in that layout. Is that what you're
right?
Yeah.
Yes. And then you'll be able to reorder them and view some, and just so if you just wanted to go down to one little item that you've got that's a button, and you want to change the text on that, you can hide everything else, and only the button will show up on that layout. Even if that button is 15 levels down.
That button you've been trying to find for years now and get rid of it.
Yeah.
So now let me ask you a question on this. I'm on a layout, and I have text box, all these kind of things. Does the system put this on a separate layers? Because when you are talking about layers, I'm just thinking about the old layers where you have different things. Layer.
Let's add it just like Photoshop.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So that's
Okay, yeah. So the people there automatically by saying that you don't have to name those layers that I want these layers, name text or name layers. Or
You name the objects.
You'll pick it up by the named object, or it'll be an unnamed object.
Okay.
And then you have the control to move things around. The order is just the way it fell in as you created the layout.
Okay.
So once you mod it after that, then that's how the order will be.
Okay.
And the other thing to note is, like, if you turn off something on the layer, that'll stay off during the session that you're logged in as. So once you quit FileMaker and you open it back up and reopen that application, you have to hide that object again if it's something that's in your web.
Okay.
Or if I've got it hidden and Darren's logged into the file, happens to go look at that layout, and I'm back in browse mode, that will remain on for him. It's session based.
Okay.
And then cards, in one easy step, create windows that are automatically sized and placed appropriately, so you can interact with this without losing your context back here.
Yeah.
And PDF support in WebDirect, you can print PDFs, invoices, labels, and more. And you can also run reports and save other information, save as PDF on the FileMaker server. This is the new interface on Windows. You get rid of that application window thing that went around here. And you can now stack windows and layer them and keep them their size that you want to keep them at.
And if you hide menus completely, it looks just like an application. So there'll be no file menus or anything. And you can leave a button where you can open the dialog box. You can get at the applications. So good. You still have your file menus and stuff like that.
And this is talking about variables and expressions in getting to autocomplete data viewer. Integration, I talked about that. OAuth 2 support, clickable security icons. We talked about scalability. And again, FileMaker Cloud for now will stay until fall, will stay on version 15. So that's mine. Any questions? You want to open questions, or you want to go to the next presentation? How do you want to do that?
We can open this up to questions. Does anyone have any questions you want to ask at this point?
Did you get any questions in there?
I did not get any questions for the text. Does anyone have any questions?
You can either ask it, or you can type it in the
Do you have a file that you open up to now, or no?
No. Do you want me to hand this over to?
Yeah, sure. I should be fine with that. Can you pass me the stand?
That's an expensive thing.
All right. So Darrin, let me just quit the meeting, so that would be bad. All right, so let me get set up here on my screen real quick and make myself a presenter.
We actually have somebody that's getting ready to roll out a 500 server implementation.
Dude, that's
the first day. It should start getting added.
You should see my screen now. So we will start this over there. Everybody see this okay? I've got a lot of junk on my desktop here. I'll try to keep it back. All right, so I'm looking at a file that we're working at for some, started out a little bit as some demo stuff and going from there. But what I want to show here is some of the card window type things and how we're looking at implementing them. So in here, if I want to add an additional contact now, I'll get a card window that pops up and I can go through and add my information here and then save or cancel. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but here's where it's a big deal. This is not using a relationship to do this like we used to do in the past. I would have to build another relationship within FileMaker to access this specific information through that relationship to either create that record or display it back. So that just reduced an item on my graph. And so if I have multiple contacts in a scenario, or let's say images or files in that case, and I had files connected to multiple tables throughout the solution, I don't have to do that anymore. I can go right to a base table, I create a record, I can cancel that record, it deletes the record. If I save the record, it commits the data, closes the window. The other most important part to note is that when I either cancel or save this information, so let's just put in here, just punch my name in here and hit save, and then we'll watch it break because I missed a parameter. But what happens though is I haven't lost context. I kept the user where they were and gave them an action and a better user interface experience than just a pop-up window that popped up in the middle of everywhere, and then you can accidentally click out. You didn't finish filling it out. In these scenarios here, all the way across the board, though, I can't click out of here. Now, I left this button turned on for now so I could close it out. But in general, that's the experience we don't necessarily need to provide. Now, I can show you one that actually does work, because I did have this working. So, test, no. We have control over where these pop-ups or these card windows go. They will always center themselves if you don't put it in any parameters. So we'll see this one go straight to the top. I told it to go to the 0 point at the top. So this one pulled up, and if we notice the other one, it was centered on the layout. It does, FileMaker's nice. They did that automatically for us. So even if I'd stretched my layout at that point, it won't let me do it after the fact, but if I had stretched my layout, it would put it in the center of the window, regardless of where it was. I'll save that. I do have my test node that actually did work this time. So you can see that here. What you don't see is behind the scenes here, I'm also using JSON. And James will talk a little bit more about this when he pops in here shortly. I know Brian's already in. Thank you for jumping in on this with us. Behind the scenes, we're changing how we do a few things. We have always passed parameters using some old custom functions that would create them in XML. And Darren's asking me to blow this up, and I don't know how to do that at all. Yeah, I can in here. Now with JSON, I can do nested elements and set JSON elements, pull my parameters in, and do this similar to what I did in XML. But now it's a native function to FileMaker with how we can do this. And it goes a level deeper than that. We can start to do things that we couldn't do with these XML functions, and we can start to build this out and nest the JSON data. So we'll have things coming out shortly that'll even show you how to duplicate records with child records, and be able to go through and parse all that JSON in seconds and go create a new record with the child records and do some cool duplications. The one thing to note, and that'll be more in terms of what James will show us as we go through, is that when we do pass JSON as parameters, we have to be sensitive to the formatting of the text, or the format, or the field where the destination lies. JSON is always going to be pushed through internally like this as text. So if I was to do a set field out of this, I would want to wrap my parameter with get as number, get as date, as I'm setting that field to reformat that back. Otherwise, it'll still insert the date correctly. It'll look fine, that number will go in fine, but the field will recognize it as text, because we all know we can still get text into a number field through an import or other things. So just be aware of that. So if your search suddenly doesn't work, you miss a wrap on that at some point. So that's going on behind the scenes here. In the cancel, come back to this. On the other end of it, then I'm able to just pull the JSON data here, and I don't know how to enlarge my screen, I apologize. But we're also seeing the new card window. So let's take a look at the settings on this card window. So we still have our standard, new window, document loading card. So we should choose card for this. I can still do a calculation for my window name, but one of the things now is, before was just new window, and then I would have to go to layout. So now FileMaker gives us those in one step. It's new window, what layout am I going to? So it's also saving us a step there. And it still works to support by calculation. And then it determines automatically, if it knows the size of the layout that I'm on, so it's 600 by 900 pixels wide. This is the one I told to go 0. And then this here, in this case, it will automatically calculate left and right. My options then are minimized down here. I can dim the parent window or not, and I can add that close box, the little circle that you saw in that left corner. Cancel. And then when I look down here, as I'm setting these fields, then I can use get element, and then I can just call these elements out. And this could be a path then in a JSON data set to traverse down into a path to get that information that we can calculate and parse out. So that's those couple features there. OAuth. Okay, so let me go back out. Let's stay here. I'm going to go back to browse mode. So I logged into this file initially just as myself, like I normally would, to my standard account. So we'll go behind the scenes first. So security. So looking at the security, we can use our authentications here. So I've got our server set up with Google, and I built all the authentications up for Scarpetta Group. So I could sign in to change security settings with a known account name and password, or sign in with Google. So I'm going to choose to sign in with Google. It asks me to authenticate. It remembers me because I'm already signed in on my browser, and then it gives me the list of known accounts, and you'll see the account I just logged into was Google. So it's that quick to set up. If we look at, let's just hit an edit account, and that gives us our Amazon option in here, Google and Azure. So all these things are available right here to you. The greatest thing about this is that if I needed to change information here or disable this person being connected from here, I can just go in and suspend their Gmail account through Scarpetta Group, and they're denied. So this gives you some more external information there. Cancel. Cancel. I don't want to make any changes. This is the same experience. I'm going to close the file. Say open remote. So it gets me the same information. And, you know, Darren's talking about the security certificates in that here. I'd like to show this as green, but it just isn't complying with me. So I have a valid certificate, and it gives me all the details here. It shows me it's valid. And after 3 installs, it still wants to be orange. So go one more step on that.
That's green.
So same thing, I can bypass this now, and then I can just use Google. It does give you this extra message. Do I want to open this? Yes, and that will do that. And then you're in your account. So that's those couple things there. Any questions on any of that? If there's a couple of things it took me to kind of figure out with the Google where to go on how to set that up. It wasn't totally clear, but we'll blog that. I'll clear that up. But it was a great way to be able to get the files set up. It would be a quicker way to get people into the files and get working on some different things. And I think it's going to be a really great add-on for working with, especially WebDirect, and the potential now that has for vendors, being able to use a vendor portal with WebDirect. All right. We've got Brian. Brian, you ready to go?
Sure.
All right, so let's turn this over to, let's see, there's Brian here.
I'm going to pause my screen for just a second. I need to get the API key for this.
Okay. This is all JSON here. This is cool. They couldn't wait to show me this one.
All right, so this one is, like Joe was saying, it's basically all JSON and insert from URL. I've set it up because it kind of saves a little bit of work on the client and doesn't make so many API calls, so you're not going to go over the limit. Is it only trigger after 7 characters, 13, and then 16? So if we just pick an address, you can see that it triggered the first time. It gives you some options. And then as we hit the next one, we can see click and set other fields.
And parses it out and right there.
Yeah. On the back end, we're just actually setting we're setting the result we get back from Google as a global variable, and then just parsing out the JSON based on the record number of this table. So there's only 5 records ever in this table, and Google only returns 5 results, so it'll get the record that we're looking for, and then parse out the information that we need. And we just use that to set the fields once the user selects what they want.
So Brian, how does it handle your location?
So I think that's the feature. I think it's based on your IP address. It's pulling where you are, and it's giving. It seems to be giving addresses that are located close to where you are, and then working its way out.
What's that? So it picks up based off your IP address, it's looking at, you know, where you are and how you're filling things in.
And then it'll give suggestions based on that. So we can just create another one and
Use the office address, see how it pulls it up. So 425 North Main Street, Simpsonville. There it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, quick. There's chatting.
yeah, the JSON parser works really well and it's extremely fast. So it's able to parse, you know, even though that's only 5 records, it's able to parse it almost instantly as it comes in, and then allows you to just go ahead and set the fields and done. So that's the Google address.
Can you show the layout, show them how you're really doing that so they can see it? Kind of sneaky.
Yeah, it's a kind of invisible portal James actually put together, and it just sits right below the address here, and then we just highlighted the.
So the portal's behind the fields.
Actually, the portal sits on top of the fields, and as we exit the field,
That's right.
it hides and allows you to enter the fields that are below it. And then they get back. I think it's already cleared out. Yeah, let's see.
So that's a good example of the objects.
So what we get back from Google is just a bunch of text. So there's 2 ways that it comes in, and it has to be parsed different for each one. Sometimes the street number and address come in together as a term, or they're separated. So I've taken into account that. And then the postal code doesn't come in on the initial API call. We got to use their place ID and then call Google a second time to get the zip code for that address.
Cool. Frank, you do one more thing. Can you go back into layout mode just to show how the layout objects work? So if you go into layout mode and then open view layout objects. And if you click on that portal, just on that, click on the portal itself, it'll show you where it is. So that'll show you, so if you click on an object, it'll show you where it is in the object tree within the layout objects. But then if that portal's in your way, because you need to work with those fields, and you get that little icon, literally icon to the right, and turn it off, that will hide that then. Yeah. Okay. And then now you can go interact with those fields, and nothing moves, it stays in place. Mm. And that's true of any of the other objects if you could click on or show or so on there. Very cool. That's a great use case for the capabilities of that.
I think that kind of covers the Google aspect here. I'll show you
up on our blog, right?
Yeah, this is the one that's up on the blog. I'll show the SMS real quick, and then the one other thing that I've been doing is our stuff with Emma and converting all old JSON scripts to use the native functions, and doing, I think it's 3 API calls to get 500 sets of records at a time, and parsing all the JSON took less than 2 minutes, and creating all the records that it needed to on the server.
How long did that take in 15?
Oh, it would take, I mean, using the modular FileMaker scripts we were using, it would take easily 45 minutes or so. It was just a lot slower.
Wow. Yeah, so there's a substantial difference in the time. Like something that was taking longer before, Brian had me test it from here, and we almost have to put a dialog box in to tell you what happened because it took about a half a second. It used to take several minutes before. So what we're trying to show is all the cool stuff that we can do with the JSON and stuff, but on the other aspect of it, it's text, and we can parse text rapidly quick the way FileMaker's built these tools in the back end.
So this one I'm still working on, so a lot of it's just rough, but doing SMS through an API, working on a separate module that actually uses the same API to do chat, and it's pretty instant using webhooks and the FileMaker PHP API to accept the webhook, process a script that then creates a record in FileMaker. So it's, I mean, once somebody sends a message, it's within about 5 seconds that record's created in FileMaker. And then, you know, it can be used. We'll have a demo on that when James and I get that finished up. Here, using a card window, I've got just some predefined messages, but we can go ahead and pick one. And
all right, so that just came through to me. And he just told me that DEF CON 2017 is coming up. Yeah.
So this here we're using, I've actually used this API for a long time. It's never needed curl, but I figured since I'm doing a lot of other API stuff, I would just convert it to curl just so I could, you know, make sure it works. And so I just set the curl here and then go ahead and do the insert from URL and shoot it out. I think that's all I've got, Joe, other than you know, the webhook stuff, which will come out probably next month.
Okay. What else you got, Brian?
I don't think the MailChimp stuff's ready. That's basically just doing curl requests.
So this, I guess what we're trying to show with this then, even this, is that if there's an API that we can get at using JSON and curl, that we can parse and pull data and interact with it incredibly fast with FileMaker. So if we think of use cases like with this text message, it could be a confirmation of an appointment where you can reply back. It could be the restaurant telling you that your table's ready. So there's just that tool alone has got some real solid use cases that we can put in solutions. Could be a ticket that just got submitted into your bug database that it's like, this one's got a high priority, drop what you're doing situation as well. The interactivity is almost limitless.
I would think you could do something like, if you put in a help desk ticket and you have a script trigger that says that it hasn't been responded to in 30 minutes, then send it.
You could do that.
Message escalate for the next.
Right. So yeah, this is totally possible because it's all run on the server. So that could run from there, or it could then start to, it could shift if somebody hasn't responded to the text message to say I've got it, or where they're doing it, and they could, like if you're saying escalate, it could go to somebody else.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've even looked. There's possibilities if you use an Office 365. It's a much more involved situation, but you can actually integrate to things like Office 365 online now. And so you can start sending emails and do things like that through using JSON. So, all right. So I think then at this point, then I'll move over to, I'll make James the presenter. You awake?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Let's turn this over to James. He's been doing some neat stuff. I'll let him talk about it. If you can, blow that up, please.
Oh, yeah. What's the short code? Hang on a second. See what the short code is. Okay, sort of. Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
No, okay. So one of the first things that I started playing with the JSON was Joe and I were talking about, streamlining our edit mode a little bit, making it a little quicker, a little bit more, can't think of the word right now, faster and just more reliable, and just in general, overall, how can we just make it better, right? So I took the FileMaker native JSON functions and I switched them to, I have two versions in here. This is on our blog right now. I have one that uses a custom function, one that uses a script loop. So if we look really quick, and you have access to this, so you can go dig further into it after. If we look at the loop, you can see I'm grabbing fields. Where I'm grabbing those from is this layout. So I've predefined fields on this layout that I want for edit mode. So any fields, like you can see the address, the city, state, zip. The native function in FileMaker for field names, you tell it what layout, and it goes and grabs any field off that layout. So what I've done here, which I'm sorry if you can't see, I can't blow up the script. I'm actually just going and hard coding in, just using the table name with the _ edit fields to grab the fields that are on this layout. That then lets me go to.
So it makes it modular. So it's allowing it to be modular. So the edit mode, what we've done is we've had a situation here. We want to have the layout look nice like it does on the left, and protect the data so that people forget that they're not in find mode, or they'll start typing in a field. So we've always had the left side of the layout be designed in a way that looks really nice now, but then have an edit mode to where you can go in and actually see the fields, know what you're typing in, and be conscious of it, but it's transactional. So that if you save it, it commits the data. If you cancel it, you're out, nothing changed. So it's protected as well. And the way he's gone through and done this, and showing you that, like, those edit layouts are, the script is done so it's modular. So we just have to pass it where my starting point is. So if I want to put this, if I have another table in here, companies, I just put in my table prefix CMP _ edit fields, and when I'm on companies, it knows just by having the script attached to that button to go and pick up the fields from there. It knows how to parse and get the data.
Yeah, and we had thought about just using the developer layouts, but you have, in some cases, you may have summary fields and a lot of calculation fields, and it would be better to not use those, because then you might be picking up a bunch of things that you don't necessarily need. So if we created the layout just for what we need, then we only pull in what we're, editing. So
using what the transaction, what's it going to be?
Yeah. So you can see, just skimming through here, you can see that I'm grabbing the fields with the field name. I get a counts by doing a value count against the fields variable. And again, I know it's probably small on screens right now. So then you can go, it just goes to the edit objects. It creates a loop. Now I did pull in a custom function that I had to modify a little bit, get field type, because I needed to know if it was a container or if it was text, because if it's a container, I need to split it out to base 64 so that it comes through as text and then I can parse it later. Now I know that we've seen some things about numbers lately on the blogs and things that have been going out. I will be modifying this file to offset numbers so that they don't come back as text, because JSON natively comes back as text. So an update to this blog post or this file will have that added in there. It'll work exactly the same. It'll just test for number, and then if it's a number, it'll say get as number down here. But you can see all I'm doing is just going through a loop. I'm just setting the fields. So I'm just going and I'm just setting the JSON elements. So I'm actually creating a JSON string when I'm doing this. So if we go here, I say edit using loop. I come over here, you can see everything's over there. Those are the exact same fields that were on the main layout. But in here, you can see, well, you can sort of see my JSON string. Hang on a second. Let me format that. So looks a little easier to read there. So you can see
explain that function. Explain that function.
So the JSON format elements function actually formats it in a readable format. So it's easier to, rather than have it all clumped as you saw before, by running this function wrapped around it, it parses it out a little bit easier to just go right down the list. So you can see once we get it to photo here, it kind of just turns into a lot of nothingness because of the base 64. If I scroll all the way down, we also have the file name right down there.
Right.
So
this is
a nice,
where,
easy way to see it.
This is where the JSON becomes a game changer, because now we can take, and in this case, we can edit and back up an image temporarily during the transaction, or push that image through the transaction where we couldn't do that before. It's all text. So we're handling it in a very fast, lightweight format. So you can actually pass an image now in JSON as base 64 as a parameter.
Mm-hmm. And if you watch what I have it say Tony Stark over here, but we have a clear picture of Iron Man. So if I go onto my desktop here, and where did I put him? There he is. Hang on, sorry. If I slide him in here, well, if we go look at that record, in browse mode right now, which, our first panel, which we consider browsed, that image changed. However, with the way that I've done this, the minute I hit cancel, it goes right back to Iron Man. So that's a little bit on using the script loop. But then I decided I wanted to take it a step further, because I didn't want to wait for a loop to go through if I had a lot of fields. And so I said, why not have it in a custom function that recursively calls itself and builds the JSON string? So I did that too. So if you look at our scripts again, we have, this is the one with the edit loop. Move that to a new window. And here's with our custom function. A lot less code, right? Does exactly the same thing. Just now I'm just setting it before. So I could actually add this as a calculation field straight into the table itself. And as you're adding it the first time or making changes, it's already writing it. And then it's just one less step when it goes and creates it, or, edits if you have to cancel, because it's already stored. So it's a little quicker. So if we look at that, it works exactly the same. There's not much of a speed difference. And if I drag, let's head back in here. And I hit cancel. It's all set. And then you can even view, I have a unstored calc in the background that you can view in a card window, the current string already formatted.
Right, so the JSON's being stored temporarily with the record. So what spawned out of this was another conversation is, well, if we can store a JSON string of what the current record data is, why not build a transaction? Why not, I'm sorry, why not build an audit log? So
so then I did that. So we did. So this will be another post at some point in the future here. All the text is not right yet, so it's still got the edit mode here. The only, let me zoom in on this. The only difference now is I have this little restore button over here. And again, I'm not quite done with this yet, but now you can click restore data and we're presented with this other card window that's a little bit bigger than the way that I have it set right now. And in here, we can see by clicking through, oh, we can't click through, I'm sorry. I was in the process of making another change to this. By clicking through these, you would actually see the data there and you could hit restore and it would restore back to what it was. I forgot I was already updating this to work with the numbers and I haven't quite finished it yet. So these didn't quite pass out yet. But basically we'll have time machine for data.
Yeah, with the images in line, set in this case.
Yeah, so if we ignore, if I just kill all this out of here for now. Oops. Actually, I don't think that's going to work, but no, I forgot I started changing that and didn't finish it for this demo. So you click restore and that would restore back here, but I'll have a blog post that shows exactly how this is working soon.
So again, this will be a modular component. It's writing all this data to a single table, and the table that it's being written to, then we can just reference what table it came from. So it'll know the source table, and it would know the dates, the times when the records were created. Mm-hmm. So we could almost do, we could almost apply some type of a trigger to the layout too. That if somebody leaves the layout, we can write the data for something like that. But he's also got it accounted for forward delete. So if somebody does delete the record through the script, then we can also then go back and restore the record from delete. Mm-hmm. We only had a script trigger that said on record delete would be set.
Yeah. If you write that into the delete script.
Right, so if we write that into the delete script, then that'll take care of that event. As long as you capture it that way and don't allow access to the menu. Yeah. So
that's what I've got.
All right.
Good.
Very cool.
Any questions, anybody?
I don't know anything about JSON.
Yes. We're going to open this up really quick. If anybody's got any specific questions, either ask them through the chat and I'll answer them for you, or we'll defer to Darrin or anybody that's here. And that's Bailey. So, any feedback?
Really?
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, I gotta go.
All right.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for hosting us. We'll see you.
All right, everybody. Then, if there's no questions or anything, we'll call it a night. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us. And I will have this this is recorded, so I'll have this posted out then. So we're going to get access to this if anybody has any questions. Feel free to email me or James or Brian and just, yes.
What's a good reference to learn about JSON?
Good reference for JSON, Brian?
I'd have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
That's all I'm
Yeah,
right.
it's probably good.
I did it by a lot of trial and error because I hadn't used it before, but I've used XML quite a bit, so it's very similar, sort of, just not the closing tag.